Virginia smoke. OVS, Old Virginia smoke. OVS, Old Virginia smoke. OVS, Old Virginia smoke. Old Virginia.
My name is Luke Darnell, Pitmaster of Old Virginia Smoke Barbecue, and I'm here to tell you about my new online class available at barbecuechamps.com. This is a 100% tell-all competition barbecue class from yours truly, available online. It is a masterclass with 34 high-definition tell-all online competition barbecue videos that can be watched anytime, and they do not expire. They are packed full of pro tips, techniques, and recipes that will show you how to take your barbecue to the next level. These 34 barbecue cooking videos total 7 hours and will show you everything that you need to take your competition cooking to a level that you never thought was possible. We've already heard from several teams that have bought our classes and have already seen success and gotten their first calls. So this is something that brings me a lot of joy in sharing my knowledge and seeing people be successful with it. So are you ready to take your competition and backyard cooking to the next level? What are you waiting for? Just go ahead and go to barbecuechamps.com and find Luke Darnell, Old Virginia Smoke. We hope you learn a lot and enjoy these videos and have as much fun cooking these recipes as we had making them. This podcast is brought to you by barbecuedata.com. Barbecuedata.com is your one-stop shop for all of your barbecue competition data. Historical data, calls, wins, placements, everything under one roof. It's a great way not only to track yourself in the standings, but also to track how you improve your scores from year to year. Listeners of this podcast can receive 20% off of a new subscription to barbecuedata.com with the code PITPOD. That's one word, all capital letters, PITPOD, PITPOD. So check your team scores, check on others, and do it all on barbecuedata.com. All right, welcome to another edition of Pitmaster and Old Virginia Smoke Podcast. My name is Luke Darnell, host of the podcast. We've been on a little bit of a break here for a few weeks, getting some stuff reorganized around the website and stuff, but we're glad to be back. And we are glad to be back with one of our longest known friends and one of our better friends in barbecue, Chris Salsberry from Fred Vegas Smokers. How are you, my friend?
I'm doing good, bud. How are you?
I'm good. You just got back from Alabama?
Alabama, yep.
How'd you do down there?
I did pretty well. I got reserve grand champion that contest. I tied for first with the GC and lost a tiebreaker. So, story of my life. I continue losing the tiebreaker. You think with the name of Fred Vegas Smokers, I'd actually get some luck, but that doesn't seem to ever happen.
Definitely gambling every time you take it out there.
Oh, yeah.
So tied for GC, ended up with the RGC, but you had a really good cook by looking at the numbers. Did you think that you had a good cook?
Yeah, I thought I could cook. Yeah, the only one I was worried about was the ribs. I mean, they started to tighten up on me, and I could tell they were tightening up as I was putting them in the box. And if there was one meat that was going to cause me an issue, it was going to be that one particular meat that I was worried about when I was going into it. And the scores reflected on the tenderness. I mean, got a lot of 8s as opposed to 9s on the tenderness, and I was kind of expecting that. So. The way it shakes out. Yeah.
It's funny that we're recording this in the morning, and I'm drinking a cup of coffee that you did not make.
Yeah.
While we're talking. Chris is the unofficial coffee sponsor of Old Virginia Smoke and Barbecue Contest.
Yeah, the pot's always ready.
Pot's always ready. Well, you've really amped up the amount of your cooking here in the past couple of years. I know that's because you've stepped away from your private job life, and now you're enjoying it and spending time cooking. How has your career or life expenses or experiences outside of barbecue prepared you to be a pitmaster going hard on the competition trail?
Well, obviously, outside of that, back when I was working, I was working and trying to be a pitmaster at the same time. And if anybody ever saw me on the circuit, I was always on the phone having meetings and talking as I was running my company. Obviously from running an organization and running a company that, is as large as I did and working as many hours as I did today, kind of gives you some discipline and understanding as you start to work on timelines and machining everything through a process. That really translates well, and especially when you're in the fields that I were in, where everything was based off timelines and deadlines and pushing through. You just kind of take that attention to detail and roll it over into barbecue, which is what I started doing when I first started cooking. It was always a matter of, where do we go from here and how we amp it up to the next level and bring that value that we're looking for. So that's kind of followed me through. And then obviously the after selling the company and retiring, I've spent a lot more time cooking now, as you've noticed. Took 2022 off to build my house down here in Charleston. And now that was built, 2023 started last year, and taking a year off, well, I'll tell you what, that was coming back and then starting cold was quite a kick in the pants for inconsistency. So,
what were some of the major challenges with taking the year off?
You take a year off, obviously the timelines always stay the same, but I'll tell you the biggest thing was the judges and their flavor profile preferences change from year to year. And I noticed a drastic change where in 2022, I had a great year. I won several contests, RGC contests, had a Jack draw. And then obviously that was 2021. And then coming into 2022, taking that off, and then going into 2023, the stuff I was doing in 2021 did not work, was not scoring well. The tenderness was the same, but the profile changed. And then as I started to figure it out last year, towards the end of last year, again, this year, the profiles changed, and I'm seeing some major changes in what the judges are looking for, especially in the ribs and pork category. It seems like they're really focusing on different things this year as opposed to the last couple of years. So kind of.
Do you think, I want to dive into this a little bit. Do you think that you've mentioned that you think the tastes change yearly, or you've noticed the yearly change? I think it changes almost quarterly. I think that, being a barbecue cook now means you have to be able to adjust, not just on a macro level from year to year, but almost, you just have to stay on it. There's no taking a break on, like, this is what I'm going to do. I've felt that change over the past, 5 years.
Yeah, I would agree that, you're constantly having to tweak your profiles, but not as drastically as I had to this year. I mean, I've always been able to just can make small changes, one or two changes here, and get right back into the nines and then move on. But this year's, last year and this year, I've noticed that it isn't a couple of small changes. It's having to revamp some things to really kind of do that, and then hopefully now that I've got that point, hopefully get back to that place of these quarterly small changes if I have to make it. But I've had to make a complete shift in what I was doing previously to what I'm doing now, to get back into the top 10 on a consistent basis. Last year I was all over. It was like throwing darts at a dartboard and hoping that you hit it after you go to a contest each week. You just sit there and scratch your head. And I'll tell you what, last year too, the biggest change for me was not only was the flavor was pretty significant, but the tenderness aspects really changed last year. And we went away from, I was seeing drastic changes where you weren't seeing as much taking it to that limit as you were the years before. It was like on ribs, they went a little bit more of a chew. It seemed like, so I cook them less and I was getting better tender. It was just constantly changing. And I think part of that too is there's a lot of new judges that came in, especially in the Mid-Atlantic last year, that came into that particular area and had a lot of judge changes. Really make you're chasing that proverbial dragon at that point of what them judges are looking for.
So that's a good point you make, because the big focus in barbecue is obviously teams are down, contests are down. Trying to find new people to cook and new places to cook. But what comes with that too, like you just mentioned, are new judges. Those classes haven't stopped.
No.
And when you add that sort of variable in there, it's going to have a fundamental change in what we're doing and what we're turning in. Yeah,
well, I'll tell you, I often joke about this, but one of the things I got a comment card last year, which was interesting, was in the comment it said great entry, lacked wow, and I was like, well, how do I even attempt to even capture
Right.
wow?
How do you quantify wow?
So what I determined, when I see a bunch of new judges coming in, I kind of start thinking back to when you and I first started barbecue. I think you and I, our very first competitions were the same competition in Fredericksburg
Right.
about 12 years ago. Was it? Probably 12.
2012.
Yeah, 12 years.
First, that's right. We're
Yeah,
like Eskimo brothers of barbecue.
yeah. That was barbecue pit masters was there doing their thing, and
Yep.
but yeah, back when barbecue pitmasters was rolling real hot and heavy, I remember everyone was talking about having to get as much flavor as you possibly can into one bite, and wow the judges. And then I saw it, and that really resonated for about 3 or 4 years, and then all of a sudden it just changed to where they wanted to go back to that let's not offend everybody barbecue. And so I scaled back my flavor profiles, and it seems like last year I had to I started rolling out recipes from 2014 and started getting hits again. I think when you get a big rash of new judges, I think they're going to that mindset. They want to be impressed and they want that wow factor is what and then I think that comment kind of quantified that for me at least. And I started picking the scores back up after I started going back to some old recipes that kind of start popping again. And that seems to be the case here too, at least with brisket. I find brisket right now, if you're not making a real beefy brisket, you're kind of sitting on the back. You're on the outside looking in of that 170.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of in that proverbial 169, 171 stretch, unless you start amping that flavor up in brisket to get you to that 173, 175 on a consistent basis. It's where you need to be.
Yeah, and it's funny, we talk a lot about tactics and things on here, and it sounds like you are the same way we are in that Kim can tell you what recipe we cooked at any contest at any point in time. If you went and pulled it up on barbecuedata.com, she could look it up and be like, all right, we made this brisket with these ingredients and this wrap and this sauce. Because once you've been around this game for as long as you and I have, you know that shit comes back. I mean, it always, you never get you never get rid of a recipe. You never ever do it.
No, you. And I find that you also start incorporating. If it's too much, then you start incorporating other profiles to kind of just try to mellow it out a little bit or ramp it up. But it just depends. I mean, it also depends too on where I'm cooking. I mean, I'm one of these guys now. As much as I'm cooking, I'm all over the place. From upper Midwest down through the Mid Atlantic, through the Southeast, the Mid South. Kind of bouncing all over the place, and and those flavor profiles change a lot too. I find that Mid Atlantic does not like it as sweet as say down south, where they like a little bit more of a sweeter profile. So I mean that you always have to take that in mind too. And then tenders is a different game depending where you're at. I find as well. So if you're cooking one area. I think the biggest testament of how good your barbecue is, and at least on a competition level, is does your barbecue travel? And I say that all the time is, can your barbecue travel? And if it can travel, then you got a shot at doing pretty well wherever you go. But if you're building a profile for one region, and then you go out and go to a different region, I find that I feel like I just drove 8 hours to be told my barbecue sucks, as opposed to being in my region where I normally cut my teeth and where I have a pretty good profile that the judges like and feeling good about myself. I find you can be humbled pretty quickly going to a different part of the country and realizing that this is a different game here.
You mentioned that you're going all over the place. You told me before we started recording, like your next 2 months. Run those down for me.
Yeah, so I have next weekend. I'm off this weekend. Next weekend, Calhoun, Georgia, followed by Kannapolis, North Carolina, then back to Georgia for the Boss Hog, off a week, and then World Championships up there in Tennessee, and then I go on a run in June I go to Indiana, West Virginia, Tennessee, and then off a week, and then over to Greenwood, South Carolina, Wise, Virginia in July, and then AmeriCamps in August is the first one I got in August, and that's where I'm at right now. I'm trying to put together my fall schedule, but I start winding down now. To be honest with you, I start winding down around the end of August. Moving down to South Carolina, my season starts in January now, and so I gotta come August I start to kind of wind down. Hunting season starts, football season starts, so I'm trying to I'm trying to, play that balance of, one or two contests a month, and then making sure that I'm doing the stuff with the family and my daughters and my son-in-laws and so forth that are coming in the family, trying to make sure we're, meeting that balance, and particularly football season when it's a big part of the kid's life with college and stuff. So.
Now, what happens if you happen to find yourself in the top 4 of the KCBS Team of the Year points race?
Nah, it doesn't matter to me. I'm not chasing. I'm chasing Bourbon and Friends, buddy.
I'm chasing. It's one of my favorite things about you, man. It's I'm not chasing points. I'm chasing Bourbon and Friends. That's so good. That's great advice. I was getting ready to ask you the question. What advice would you give to a young cook who's about to enter the real world of competition barbecue? And that's don't chase points, chase Bourbon and Friends. That's pretty good.
Yeah, no chase points. It isn't. You're going to find yourself greatly disappointed most of the time. If you're basing your happiness on 7 people or 6 people on the table, you need to reevaluate your life.
That might be one of the better truth bombs ever dropped on this podcast. If you're basing your happiness on 6 to 7 people, reconsider. I love it. Oh man, let's talk about some gear a little bit. Since I've known you, since you've been cooking, you have gone through quite the extensive list of cookers and all kinds of stuff. What's the best or most worthwhile investment that you've made in competition barbecue?
A trailer. Having a nice trailer. That would probably be the most worthwhile investment you can make. If you're not in the elements, having the battle of tent falling in on you, I don't know how many times I dealt with that when I was first starting in the pop-up tents and everything else. I mean, that just anything you could take away from the equation of your cook time and your timeline and impacting your humidity and everything else, you're going to have your points are just naturally going to go up. You have less things that are going to impact your overall capabilities. And then having your cooker under a covered porch definitely helps with that. If it's not out there battling the elements and fighting, then you're going to have a lot better, more consistent cook with your equipment. So, and then I would say just, it's funny as I started out this game with the stick burner, and then went to, like you said, I chased all these different cookers because I figured out what I liked. And, eventually made a full circle, and I'm back to a stick burner, and I don't see myself changing. I just find that I do better, and I pay more attention to my food. If I'm on a easy bake oven cooker, then and they have their merits, but they just don't produce the product that I like, that I feel like really scores well for what my profiles that I put out there. I'm not saying that they're bad cookers. There's guys cook on those things all the time and do real well. It's just, for me and my profile, it doesn't resonate well with a cabinet cooker or a gravity feed. It just doesn't have the pop that I get out of that stick burner.
Yeah. And it's one of those things, like, I'm the same way. I'm on one now, and, I don't know if I'll ever stop doing it, but it is intriguing to think about just having 4 cans and rolling around a lot lighter. And
listen, I'm telling you what, I watch these guys in cans cook, and God bless them, they put out a good product, but it's like going to mass on Sunday. The amount of time they're standing up and turning and sitting down and standing up, I get exhausted watching when I'm sitting there. They're rotating that rack every 15 minutes and checking and chasing that dragon of that temperature, and making sure that they don't leave a lid open just a crack, and all of a sudden it's up to 500 degrees. That's one of the things. If you're a good can cooker, those guys are constantly on those pits, constantly working them, and I mean, they're true craftsmen in what they're doing, but that's just too much work for me. I like just doing this, opening the thing, throwing a stick in, closing it, and sitting down and drinking coffee and waiting for Alexa to tell me I need to do something.
So those are all, big high dollar items. Do you have any tools or purchases of $100 or less that have really impacted your competition barbecue game?
Yeah,
I know you do. I'm excited about this one.
Yeah, the butter slicer. That was probably the most epic thing that changed my life ever when it came to competition barbecue. That just being able to have 3 nice strips of butter and not having to worry about the different sizes. I mean, just having it uniform. Just that was a big one. And then I used to say the grease separators, but I don't even use those anymore. But
you don't?
No, I don't even use my au jus anymore. I find that's inside my wraps. It's just too salty or too sweet, and I think just I make brand new for both my big meats. I make brand new jus when it comes down to making the turn in. Just
Pay attention, kids. That was a tip.
much more consistent and much more. Um, and with that, I'm able to amp it up and ramp it up or ramp it down as I need to based on how the meat's tasting when I'm tasting my samples. If it needs salt, I can add salt. If it needs sweet, I can add sweet. And so when I start with the baseline, I can actually adjust. So as opposed to coming out of that wrap where it's sitting for 6, 7 hours in that wrap, between the cook and the rest, a lot of things change that wrap and that jus. That makes it it can either be real funky or it can be real great. But if you got something real funky and you're trying to use that to amp your flavor up on your final turn, and it can come back to bite you in the rear end. But that's when you get that card, right? The wonderful unknown flavor that you just have to sit there and wonder, like, what was that unknown flavor? I go, I know what it was. It was my wrap. Probably should have put that on that meat, but it is what it is. So,
Any other tools?
yeah, the convection cooktop. That was that thing's a game changer too.
I love mine.
Yeah, I mean that was just being able to have that, not having to worry about heating up your sauce and controlling, and then being able to control the temperature so it doesn't overcook or overboil and everything else. Just going to make the perfect. And you can hit the one setting. I mean, I have one setting that I know that when I do it, it's 10 minutes on every sauce where I hit the perfect combination of heat where it's molding all the vinegar and the sweet together, and you can start to smell that vinegar kick in there and get that savory aspect that really makes a big difference instead of playing the old game where we put it on the smoker or put it on a gas powered little cooker and everything else. So.
Yeah, I've never been a fan of heating it that way. I know lots of guys do, and I like having the control of the induction burner. It is just something I picked up in my first barbecue class with Chris Hart from IQ, and that was back when you took a barbecue class and you're like, whoa, and like you went and bought the exact model that guy had because you didn't want the variants, you wanted like. I saw this thing work. This thing's amazing. So
yeah,
we still have that exact model from that class.
Yep, mine's 8 years old now. So
yeah,
and the buttons have wore off. You can't even see what the on button is or all the articles. Still works.
It also helps to have that to make a quick breakfast or something, or a quick meal if you need it too. So
absolutely.
So yeah, I can't. You don't use a lot of technology in your cook because you're on a stick burner, but do you use a lot of like apps and stuff and technology for your organization given how much you're going and how much traveling you're doing?
No, it's all in my head.
Wow.
I got that pit. I'll be honest with you. I got my pit dialed in so well. I know where all my meats go. I know where everything sits, and I know exactly from the minute that I put on to about the time frame where I need to start probing. And realistically, where I need to set meats for color, where I need to set meats to finish them up, where I need to rotate, and all I do. The only thing I have is a smart speaker where I tell Alexa to set times, so I can remind myself to make sure that I'm rotating my meats around so they get cooked thoroughly. That's about the only thing I got.
You know what, dude? You just brought up something that I do a lot anymore, and I use Siri because we're all Apple products, but using that. Like to set timers and stuff,
Yep,
is so much more efficient than having what was those things those guys used to carry, time sticks and all that crazy shit.
Yeah. No, the only drawback is I play my music so loud that when I'm yelling at Alexa to stop the timer, she can't hear me. That's not the only thing that is the drawback to it. But yeah, I mean, getting those alarms set and having that go off, because people come up and start talking at your trailer. And everything else, and you just start losing track of time. But when that thing goes off, you can tell someone, "Hey, guys, do something real quick."
Well, right. I mean, especially when you're in some sort of musical battle with your neighbor, and
yeah. Well,
swapping songs, and you gotta,
yeah. What song's gonna offend the most?
Right, and that's perfect lead into you. I'll tell everybody right now that Chris is listening to music while he's cooking, and what are your musical preferences, and what do you like to listen to while cooking?
ABBA. ABBA is
you don't like ABBA?
Oh, ABBA is the best. ABBA is is a staple on Saturday morning, along with yacht rock radio. those are the two things that are going on. And then prep time all day Saturday, or excuse me, all day Friday when I'm prepping, doing all that. It's flat out Cody Jinks and Outlaw Country. But on Saturday morning, it's classic ABBA. I mean, I'm cranking out dancing like you wouldn't believe.
He does, folks. It's hard to deal with. Hard to deal with. But you also introduced me to Cody Jinks too, so I can't.
Oh yeah,
I can't be. And we actually got to cook barbecue for him last year at Jiffy Lube Live, so it was pretty neat.
no,
He walked up and got a sandwich, and I was like, "Man, we got to take a selfie just for my buddy Chris." Do you have any other habits or rituals or routines that you've established for yourself during competitions?
Yeah, don't drink heavily on Friday night. Do that.
How often does that one get you?
It gets me at least once or twice a year, of which I wish it's a struggle test. But generally speaking, I'm usually in bed by 8:30 on Friday night, and I'm up at 4, but on Saturday. But yeah, I mean, if you can do one thing that I learned over the years is don't get yourself to a point where you're not going to be able to pay attention in the morning. And those that do, good for you guys. I mean, if you guys want to have a good time, do it by all means. I highly recommend it. But for me, I'm there to kind of win a contest to win some points, or not points, but points from a standpoint of the judges, and trying to get as high a score as I can. For me, it's all about a GC and a jack draw. That's all I care about. I mean, I don't care about chasing points as far as KCBS points chase or anything else. I don't even look at it, to be honest with you. It's all about getting that GC and getting that piece of paper that I can fill out to turn it, send it into on the Wufoo app.
Yeah. I have to admit, I'm kind of in the same place as you.
Yeah.
I want to go back one more time.
Yeah. Well, I like to go. I've actually gotten the draw and didn't get to go. So
That's right. I forgot about that.
Family commitments prevented me from going that weekend. So I'd like to be able to get that draw and actually go and just to experience it once. But yeah, for me, that's the coup de grace for me. It's just being able to get to the jack and get one of those sweatshirts and say in a barrelhead and just say I have. I don't care if I even win. I mean, of course, I'd love to win it, but just being able to go there and see people.
Well, that's why I want to go back, because the first time we went, I just took it all in, man. I didn't care, how we cooked. I cared and we tried to do well, but for me, it was just being there when that was going on. And, I used to hate every one of those motherfuckers that had a sweatshirt. And I'm like, one of these days I'll get one. And then finally I bought 7 of them, so I never run out of them.
There you go. Yeah, no, yeah, that's all I want to do is just get there and get a sweatshirt for, that would be good enough for me. Just say I've been there and I cooked it. So, but it was nice to get drawn and get recognized that you got the bung, your bung got hit. That was getting that email was pretty special.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. So a couple of questions about people in barbecue. Who has impacted your life the most in competition barbecue?
Boy, that's a tough one. There's been so many people you've just met that have been fantastic. I don't know if there's really been anybody that has impacted me from a cooking standpoint, but from one thing about barbecue is it's just friendships. And my friendship obviously with you and Jerry and Kerry Chastain and guy. I mean, the people I've just met over the years. You get to find out who you meet some really true friends that you can actually sit with and talk with and visit with and have a wide variety of things just to bust each other's chops over. I think that's probably been the most impactful thing is bringing just a sense of camaraderie that especially when I was working 20 hours a day, always having friends that you could just shoot the shit with was a big thing for me. So I would say that the friendships that I've developed over the last 12 years have been something that I think has been absolutely stellar, and there's been so many good people in this sport. A lot of good people have left too, which has been pretty
it's tough, right?
Yeah, I mean, but I'm on a mission now. Some of these people that were out there that were cooking when I first started that aren't cooking anymore, I'm calling them this year and I'm saying, hey, look, I need you to come out at least once and hang out for a weekend. You don't have to cook. Just come out and hang out with us for a weekend. So I've gotten a few people to come off the off the bench and just to come hang out. So and I'm continuing. I'll tell you one guy I'm working really hard. And I think I got him close. Is Neil Papalardo.
Oh, Neil Pappy.
Yeah, so I think if I get that guy out there to at least one contest, just come hang out for a weekend, just to say hi and visit and have a good time, I think that would be pretty good.
That's a great idea, man. That guy, like, and there are so many. But that question really was set up there for you to say, I took Luke Darnell's class on Barbecue Champs Academy, and it really impacted my life.
You know what? It did. And I'm going to tell you how your class impacted my life. The brisket envelope was single-handedly the best trick I ever learned on a barbecue class so far to date. The brisket envelope.
And I think I give credit in there. I haven't watched the lesson myself, but yeah, I was taught that. And but it's such a game changer in terms of losing liquid.
I'll tell you what, though. You want to talk about this weekend? I actually had my brisket was in the resting, and I went and put my money mussels in the cooker, and I always put them on a rack to keep them together. And I scraped my brisket side as I was putting it in there, and all of a sudden hear this beautiful sound as liquids coming out, hitting the bottom of the cooker and catching steam. And I looked down, and there was like a waterfall coming out of my envelope. And I was like, oh, this is not good. And then it was pull that out. And then I'm calling 2 or 3 people, and finally I got a hold of Carrie Chastain. I'm like, do you happen to have any of this, that, or this and the other thing? Because I had nothing. I only bring what I need for a contest.
Right.
Yeah, come on down and get it. I mean, and it wasn't even what I normally use. I make my own wrap and au jus here at the house. But I figured, you know what, if I can get this, this, and this, it's going to be pretty close to what I make at the house. And he had some, and I went down, took the 4-minute walk over to his trailer and got back and built something and put that to work and got that brisket back on. But I tell you what, when I watched that water shoot out of that thing like it was, the liquid, I was like, my heart just sank. I was like, that was going to be good brisket. That thing looked beautiful when it went in the wrap.
One of the things you can do is once you put it in that envelope is to put it into a half pan.
Yeah, yeah. So the problem with that is on my cooker that it drastically impacts my airflow.
Really?
Yeah, because of the way I have all my meat set up, and I'm pretty stubborn, and I'm not willing to change the way I put my meat in because it works so well that. So I'm. And that's what everyone says. Like, yeah, I mean, even Carrie goes, "Well, don't you put it in a half pound?" I'm like, no, stop. Note to self: next time, move the brisket over a little bit before you put the rack in, so you don't hit the thing. But I mean, it's just so dialed in where I have with my, with what I have and how my meats are set up. It just kind of sneaks through, and everything comes off on time. That if I make another change, or if I put something like that in there, I'm afraid it's going to impact my.
It'll just screw everything up. Yeah.
Yeah, and it really came into effect when I started. That really came into effect, to be honest with you, when I started cooking strictly money mussels as opposed to the butts. And so
it's a huge loss of volume.
Well, yeah, I took a whole lot of volume out, right? And so, but by doing that, it improved the color on all my other meats because it was getting better airflow. And so now my ribs are coming out even better looking than they were before. Once I went away from having that, all those 4 butts sitting on the cooker. Now I just have 40 money muscle sitting on a rack, and I get a lot better airflow on that backside of the cooker. Where my ribs are at, they actually come out a much better mahogany color than they did before.
If I could make 2 changes to barbecue, I would go back to the whole butt rule, and I would make burn ends mandatory.
then we'd all be cursing judges.
Oh. I just think that those are the 2 hardest things. I just think we've really made it. I get it. We've made it easy, more accessible, but man, turning in. I
mean, when I first started, I turned in burn ends on every cook. I mean, and my, they were fantastic. I loved burn ends, but the problem was, and for a while there, the judges were, if you didn't have burn ends in the box, it seemed like you were getting dinged.
You're getting dinged. Yep.
All of a sudden, there was we see a change with the judges, and they couldn't, too fatty on the comment cards, and you're getting tender scores and 7s and 8s, and it's like, well, take the burn ends out of the box because they can only judge what's in the box, and there's some strict criteria, for at least for a slice, what they have to go with for tenderness and everything else. But the burnt ends is kind of a purely
Oh,
subjective.
listen. I have a whole theory on East Coast burn ends.
Yeah, don't do it.
Well, it all started back when Mark Gibbs was really successful and was teaching classes and was scoring in brisket without putting burn ends and teaching, 40 people every 6 months. He would make a big show of just throwing the point in the trash.
Yeah.
And he's like, don't even bother. He's like, your scores will go up. And I mean, I don't know how many people he taught classes to, but it was significant enough that it basically, I called it the invasive species of burn ends. It eradicated burn ends in the Mid-Atlantic area.
Yeah. Well, I tell you what, I would, if I were to start going back to burn ends, I would still cook a Wagyu flat, but I would go to a choice, or not to a choice, but to a prime brisket, point, because it just renders out. It just renders out better than, say, a Wagyu.
Some of the Wagyu points are too marbled.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, especially on those, like I cook the A9s, and I mean, you might as well forget about it. It's just not going to render out in the time that you need to get that thing done. And I'm not putting that thing on the cooker at night and letting it go overnight. My superpower, as you commonly say, is sleep. And I'm
Sleep.
sleep. Yep. And I want my sleep, and I want to be able to get up and cook, and I don't want to have to worry about a real fatty point sitting there, never rendering to the point where it feels done.
Right.
But if it was mandatory, I'd definitely be buying choice, or not choice, but even some cheap choice points. I mean, I've seen choice points on a Walmart brisket that have been fantastic.
Absolutely. I cook tons of them every week, and it's like, okay.
Yeah, but I mean, I would just get a nice looking point that's got some good marbling in it, and then let that ride. And I wouldn't even put a whole lot of au jus in it, and just let the natural fats render out as well, just to get that salt content down. Because it just seems like that's one thing you got to worry about at least with me. With what I'm doing is if you oversaturate them with wrap, it'll to a salt level that it'll give you a heart attack.
Yeah, man, we've covered a lot of ground very quickly. I knew this was going to be a good podcast, though, just because, we've been going through some changes on the website and stuff. And, I have this list of people I wanted to have it, and you've always been on it. And I'm like, I'm saving this for the right time. And I think this is the right time because you're traveling around and you're cooking constantly, and it's really great just to follow where you're going. I mean, that's a lot of fun.
Yeah, I appreciate that. No, I mean, it's after I retired, it seems like I have a lot more time, and of course, my wife like, get out of the house. I don't. You're home way too much. So it's been a good. I enjoy it. Like I said, I'm chasing Bourbon and Friends, meeting lots of new people, getting to see old friends, which is great. I'm going to expand I'll probably do 35, 40 contests this year. Like you said, you're going to get on the points chase. No, I want this to be fun. I mean, I find that, if you're chasing points, I just think that you're adding an element that's you're just going to find yourself chasing points and not having fun. And I don't want to do that. And if this becomes a job as opposed to a hobby, then
Right.
I just don't want to do it. I mean,
It's more of, I like the way you said it earlier when you said I'm chasing points at a contest to do my best and get a high score. Like, because that's where, I'm not cooking as much as I used to anymore. We'll probably cook more this year than we did last, but I'm more focused on, instead of that big picture stuff, I'm like today.
right.
Like, what can I do today to make that goddamn pork score go higher? Or, like.
Oh, yeah. Well, I think, too, I think we get so wrapped up as cooks, hiding what we're doing to be success, that we're not. Yeah, I'm just the opposite. I mean, you come up and ask me what am I doing, I'm going to tell you what I'm doing. I mean, if anybody comes up and tells me what I'm doing, ask me what I'm doing, I'm going to tell them what I'm doing, because I really don't care. I mean, at the end of the day, you got to cook, right? And and realistically, I hate to see people struggle, because I'll tell you what, when people start to struggle, that's when they start to leave the sport. When they get frustrated and they get upset and they walk away from it. And everyone runs into adversity in this game. I mean, I've sat there and just pulled my hair out. Like I said, I love driving 6-7 hours to get told my barbecue sucks, but it's very few people can make very few people come in, they take a couple classes, they have success right away, and then all of a sudden something changes and they don't know how to make those changes or what to do, and then the next they're here a year and then they're gone.
Yeah.
You hate to see that, and you see a lot of people putting time and investment in it. You want to help people because they're really good people. You enjoy being around them, and then all of a sudden they're gone, and you're just like, well, that was kind of a waste of $30,000 last year to come out and have some success, and then turn around and 2 years later and you're out of the sport completely. I mean, that doesn't make much sense. And I think that it's behoove us, the guys have been doing this a long time, to try to help people so that they're staying engaged in the game, so that we're not seeing contests shut down.
Right. I'm
seeing way too many contests shut down. Good contests that I used to love to go to that aren't there anymore. Like Covington, Virginia, what a phenomenal contest. I think they did it they did it last year, and I think that was probably the last time, because I haven't seen it come up this year. But you want to talk about a phenomenal contest, beautiful, beautiful people, beautiful contest, great place to go for that time. And it's out there, and you see that over and over. Fredericksburg Jamboree was another one.
Oh,
great
contest.
These contests that are just disappearing, because they're just not getting the number of teams that they want to have come out there to justify the contest. So, and part of that is because people are, they come in, they get frustrated, and they quit. And so, anything that I can do to help people, stay connected and stay engaged, I think is an important thing. And I have the time, and I'm always willing to talk to people. And people come to ask me anything on my Twitter all the time. I'll visit with them 20, 30 minutes, have a good time chatting. But we need to do that. We need to be statesmen of the sport. We need to be the elder. I mean, if you think about it, we've been doing this 12 years. We're kind of the elders of this. Some of the elders of the sport now.
I know, right? That guy's old. That guy's been around forever.
I always love it when you and I were sitting there, and them old boys come out and show these young boys what to do today.
I forget where. Last time we won, I think it was Ashland last year. So somebody came up and said, "Man, it's good to see you, still pushing forward and stuff." I'm like, "Damn." Like, I haven't gone anywhere.
Hey, it is what it is. It's cyclical, man. I mean, I'll go on a run. I mean, I've been on runs. I mean, I've won. I mean, I remember a couple of years ago I won 3 in a row, and I won several contests, or granted RGC contests that year, but it's cyclical, and you just learn to deal with it, right? I mean,
right.
There'll be, I'll get on a hot streak, and while the hot streak's going, I'm going to ride it. And then when it comes to a crashing halt, I'm going to say, okay, well, I had a good ride. Now I need to figure out what I need to do. And I think we need to remember that it is cyclical. What's old is new again. What's new is old again. And just remember that it's a marathon, not a sprint.
Right.
It's a long season. People don't want to, the people that are really competitive in it, they come out strong out of the gates. And I was telling one of the young guys that came out, he was complaining because he's going, man, I don't know what happened. He goes, I came out swinging this year in January, February, March, April, had all these RGCs and GCs, and then all of a sudden, plop. I said, hey, it's not how you. Number one rule: it's not how you start; it's how you finish. And
right.
I would rather be hot going into September and October, especially with the Royal, the Jack, and everything that's going on. I'd rather be hot at that time than hot in January when it's just starting up the season. So this ain't NASCAR.
Right.
Our big ones aren't at the beginning of the year. Our big ones are at the end of the year, and that's where you want to be hot. You want to be hot when you're rolling with the Royal. Are you doing the Royal this year?
Absolutely. I know. I'm never missing the Royal.
Yeah, I'm unfortunately not going to make it this year. It's daughter's getting married, and so that's the kind of the question. Doing family stuff around that time, but and of course they moved the timeline, right? So it's now last weekend of
super late. Going to be a cold Royal. But we're actually doing the Royal different than we ever have. In that I'm getting a bigger space. In the past couple of years, we've rented an RV and then had a J3 there.
Yep.
Lots of going up and down stairs, lots of depending on the wind.
Right.
Was nice having a living area there, but, also all the competition stuff was jammed in there. So this year we're going to have both. We're going to take the trailer out and we're going to have
The RV.
the giant RV so that there's a place to get away. There's a place where you can go sit down and be, probably not cool this year, probably warm.
Right.
But, separating the two and having two distinct environments, I think is going to be, 80% of the Royal is your environment. I really do. And it's the people around you. It's how you choose to spend your time and what your infrastructure is like. And I really wanted to concentrate this year on making my environment the best that it could be. Yeah. I know it's going to be super expensive, but I've already done a lot of it. I've already rented the RV. I've already, we got the same one we got last year because we loved it. We know where everything is. Right. And just creating that situation where it's a home game. Yeah. I think is such an important deal. So.
Yeah. That makes sense. Don't get sucked into the hole on Friday night.
I'm really good about my Friday night not getting sucked into the hole. The problem where I lose the plot is on Wednesday and Thursday night anymore. So,
those are the best nights of barbecue right there.
And that's another thing that both you and I try to be really good about is going in on Thursday and leaving on Sunday or even Monday if it's a double because. Yeah. People don't know we have fun on those nights, man. Thursday night we can have a few drinks. If we're staying Sunday night going into Monday, whoever finished highest has to buy dinner. Oh yeah, it's a lot of fun.
Yep. No, Thursday night is a for me. I think Thursday night is probably to me is the reason why I really enjoy barbecues because I get to see friends. I get to really. Everyone's guards down. Everyone's having a good time. Some crazy things happen, and you just you just really enjoy it. And then Friday, you wake up and the game face goes on, and you cook, and then you relax, and you're around a campfire, just having a good conversation, and then you're gone Sunday morning. But Thursday, I think if you're going to a barbecue contest, some people don't all the time, but if you have the time, go Thursday night. It really adds to the experience. You find that you're going to really connect with people, and you get enough drinks, and they'll start telling you what they're doing.
It's the number one place to learn. Number one place I've ever learned at a barbecue contest is Thursday night around a campfire. Oh yeah, I teach this in my class. I'm like, get there Thursday afternoon, set up, go make some friends, then sit around and shut up. Yeah, just listen,
or go to the bar that has the jukebox and commandeer the jukebox and make all the locals upset with all the crazy music that you're playing that they don't like. So that's another fun tip that you can do too.
I love doing that. See, this is the problem with having great friends on your podcast is that we could talk here for another couple hours probably. Oh, sure. Let's get to the rapid fire questions because these are my favorites. And okay. I'm really interested in your answers in these. What do you see about barbecue on social media that upsets or bothers you?
People complaining about the judging. I'm not, I don't like it either, but you're not going to change it. Leave the frustration off the social media aspect. If you got a problem with it, take it to the board and have a conversation there. At the end of the day, you got this is a subjective game. And just deal with the fact that everyone's taste buds are different, and their version of what barbecue is different, and it's just part of the experience. There are days I walk away feeling like like I said, I drove 8 hours and my barbecue sucks, and then there are days where I walk away with a big check, and I'm this is the best sport. It's like golf. Barbecue is like golf. It really is. You sit there and you skull the ball all day, and you plant cornrows on the fairways. and then you hit that one shot on your last hole, and it goes 300 yards straight down the pipe, and you go, "This is the best sport on the planet," and you're back the next week. Same thing in barbecue. There are days where I'm scolding the judges, and they don't like my food, and I hate the sport, and I want to throw everything in the trash. And then the next week, I come out and I GC the thing, and it's the best sport on the planet, and I'm walking off with a big check, and I'm back the following week. Same
Right.
thing. But yeah, leave the complaining about the judges off the thing. I mean, we know there's problems. Every contest, you're going to run into problems. It's just the way it is. Enjoy it for what it is, and then work with, let's let people and work with people to get, to make the change that we feel that need to be made from a cook's perspective. With a seating program, whatever it is, and scoring programs, whatever it is. But realistically, it's supposed to be fun, and if you're not having fun,
Don't do it.
Right.
Right. Do you have a favorite pre, during, or post competition meal?
That's a good question. Yes, I do. Bologna sandwich. If you
He does love a bologna sandwich.
every contest there's a loaf of white bread and fresh number 6 slice bologna, and it's a fried bologna sandwich. Every barbecue contest, I'm eating fried bologna sandwiches and walking around I got a smile from ear to ear like a pig in slop. I'm having fun.
Do you have a favorite present that you like to give to people?
I'm out now, but I used to give out my stickers. That was I had a unique sticker. It was a Fred Vegas Smoker sticker, and it was in the form of a poker chip.
I remember those.
Yeah, and I haven't been. I just ran out a couple contests ago. I got some on order again, but I used to hand those out like crazy. But those are from a sticker standpoint there. And then as far as your presents, I used to have back when I owned my company, I had coffee mugs that were labeled with my company name on them, and I would give those out as part of to people as well. So then people seem to enjoy those. But those are now a rare. Those are save those ones. Those are collector's items. You don't see that name anymore.
I think I have one somewhere. Not sure where.
So,
if you could have this last question, but it's probably my favorite. If you could have a gigantic billboard anywhere with anything on it, getting a message out to millions or billions, what would it say and why?
yeah, I would have it. Boy, where would I have it though? That's the question. You know what? I'd probably put it in where I'm going to get the most traffic. I'd have it in Times Square, and I would say, which is become my favorite saying over the past couple of years: chase bourbon and friends and enjoy life. That's what it's all about. I mean, drink America's drink, enjoy life, gather friends, because at the end of the day, friends are what make the experience great.
That's all that matters.
Yep.
All right, Chris, tell people where they can find you online, and if there's any. That's a good question. Do you have sponsors?
I don't.
You've done this completely without that.
Never.
I love that.
No,
Never.
just no. I mean, I just don't want to. It's just easier not to have sponsors. I mean, don't get me wrong. I think sponsors are great. Just for me, I don't want to. I don't want to have any issue with. You're not doing a social media post. You're not doing this. You're not doing that. Again, I want to have fun, and if I feel like I have to make a social media post or anything else, then I just, it becomes a job, and I don't want it to ever be a job. I just want it to be a hobby.
Right.
And I've been offered sponsorships, and I've just turned them down. I just wasn't interested.
Hear that, barbecue people? Well, tell people where they can find Fred Vegas Smokers, man.
Find me on Facebook, FredVegasSmokers.com, or Fred Vegas Smokers. I do own the domain FredVegasSmokers.com, but I haven't never put up the website. That'll probably change in the next couple of years, I would assume. But and then obviously on Twitter, you can find me at pitmaster_FVS. Don't have anything on Instagram, but those are my two social media platforms is Twitter and Facebook. And realistically, the only reason why I have those two social media platforms is to pay attention to where the next barbecue contests are going to be. And I post the occasional update there. How I do on the weekend and so forth. Some people people are really good at social media. I'm not one of those people.
Agreed. Me neither.
I just like to have fun, and I end up on a lot of social media pages because of the antics I pull on Thursday night. But other than that, it's
Thursday nights are the best, buddy.
but yeah, no, yeah. You can get me on Facebook and on Twitter.
Excellent, Chris. Well, thanks for being on, man. I can't wait to see you in Kannapolis.
We'll see you in Kannapolis, my friend. It's a hot double.
I've never, we have never done it.
You've never done Kannapolis?
Nope. It was always during Fredericksburg. And then there was something else that it was always during, and we've never been there.
Oh.
And Kim was like, look, she goes, we've never done this contest. I know it's on the wrong side of North Carolina for us. We never do well over there, but let's go. So we're going to go.
I think you'll be pleasantly surprised. A lot of the judges that you'll see there are the ones that you're normally seeing in the Mid-Atlantic. At least they were the last few times I've done it. It's a great contest. Eddie does a phenomenal job organizing it. For those who are even thinking about getting on or trying to get into it, it fills up pretty fast.
It's waitlisted now, which is awesome.
I mean, it's one of those contests where they cap it, and the facility is beautiful. The downtown where they have, right in the middle of downtown City Hall and this big medical research facility campus, it's absolutely gorgeous. Minor league baseball team that plays there.
Oh, neat.
Sometimes, last year they actually were in town playing, so you can go to the ball game. The restaurants are top notch. You got some top notch restaurants there with great bourbon selections in the bars, steakhouses. I mean, it's a fantastic contest, and the People's Choice. You never want to be the People's Champion, but in that one, you kind of want to be the People's Champion because the payout is it can actually be better than some of the other. I mean, I took what was it, six in People's Choice, and I made $700.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, it was a good payout. I mean, People's Choice, and it's mandatory. You got to do it, but it's worth. I mean, they make it worth your while to do it. I mean, it pays very well. Great contest.
Very cool.
Yeah, I'll see you in Kannapolis. I think I'll see you. What else? The Worlds.
Kannapolis, KCBS Worlds, Wise.
Oh, you never miss Wise.
Never miss Wise.
That's one
contest.
I'll be on my deathbed and I'll still make Wise.
Wise, Virginia. Still is and always will be one of my favorite contests. It's 7.5 hours from here, but I consider it my hometown contest because it's always during our wedding anniversary. It's in such a cool place, and I've gotten to know pretty much everybody in that town over the past 10 years. It's just fantastic.
Great contest. What's interesting as I moved to Charleston, it's actually closer for me from Charleston to Wise than it was when I lived in Northern Virginia to Wise. I mean, it's a 5
Absolutely.
hour drive, and it's a straight shot up 26, as opposed to like we used to. I mean, I used to pass you on the mountains up there.
It's amazing we didn't get arrested there last year. Just put that out there. We don't need to discuss it, but yeah, this is amazing. Waking up the next morning going, how am I not in jail?
Hey.
Is Chris okay? All right, my friend. Well, we'll see you down the road.
Absolutely, buddy. Take care. Good talking
Thanks.
with you.
Thank you for listening to Pitmaster, an Old Virginia Smoke podcast. Be sure to subscribe and like the podcast, rate the podcast, and to share it out with your friends. Also, be sure to check out the Old Virginia Smoke TikTok as well. Old Virginia Smoke, one word. That's all you have to search for. It's hilarious. Tune in next week for another great episode of Pitmaster. For companies interested in advertising, please contact Old Virginia Smoke directly via www.oldvirginiasmoke.com. Pitmaster, an Old Virginia Smoke podcast, is edited by Chris Sedanka. Pitmaster, an Old Virginia Smoke podcast, is a property of Old Virginia Smoke, LLC.
Old Virginia Smoke. Old Virginia Smoke. Oh, yes. Old Virginia.